Today, we explore one of the most mysterious and transformative periods in human history, the Bronze Age collapse. It was a time when once mighty civilizations crumbled, their cities fell into ruin, and the world plunged into what can be called the first dark age of recorded history. The Bronze Age collapse, which occurred around 1200 BC, represents a sudden and widespread breakdown of numerous advanced civilizations that dominated the Mediterranean, Near East, and parts of Asia. In the span of a few decades, city-states vanished, trade networks shattered, and the global cultural and technological achievements of the era unraveled. But what exactly caused this monumental collapse, and how did it shape the course of history? To understand the collapse, we must first look at the world that existed before it. The Bronze Age, beginning around 3000 BC, saw the rise of some of the most advanced civilizations in human history. The mighty Egyptian Empire ruled the Nile, the Hittites controlled Anatolia, and the Mycenaeans dominated the Greek mainland. These civilizations were not isolated. They were interconnected through complex trade networks that spanned from the Indus Valley to the shores of the Aegean Sea. Metal, grain, luxury goods, and cultural exchange flowed freely. But these societies were also fragile, heavily reliant on trade, diplomacy, and a shared understanding of technology. The reasons behind the collapse of the Bronze Age world remain a topic of debate among historians, but several key factors seem to have contributed. 1. Invasion and raids. One of the most significant factors was the rise of Sea Peoples, a mysterious group of raiders who swept across the eastern Mediterranean, attacking established civilizations from the Levant to Egypt. These marauding bands destabilized entire regions, burning cities and disrupting trade routes. While the exact origins of the Sea Peoples remain unknown, their attacks are thought to have played a major role in the downfall of civilizations like the Hittites, Mycenaeans, and others. 2. Climate change and environmental stress. Climate change also appears to have contributed to the collapse. Evidence from archaeological sites suggests that the eastern Mediterranean suffered from a prolonged drought around this time. This would have reduced agricultural output, leading to food shortages, famine, and mass migration as people sought new lands to settle. 3. Economic disruption and the end of trade. The collapse of trade networks was another critical factor. As the great civilizations fell, the interconnectedness that defined the Bronze Age came to a halt. Mycenaean palaces, once centers of commerce and culture, were abandoned. The trade routes that supplied luxury goods, metals, and essential resources crumbled. This economic disruption led to a loss of technological knowledge, including the once common use of bronze. 4. Internal strife and social upheaval. Internal strife and social unrest within these civilizations also played a role. Many of the kingdoms and city-states were already experiencing significant social inequalities. The collapse of central authority, the breakdown of trade, and the disruption of food supplies may have led to widespread revolt and the eventual abandonment of cities. By the late 13th century BC, the great powers of the ancient world were in crisis. The Mycenaean civilization collapsed almost overnight, with their palaces burnt and abandoned. In Anatolia, the Hittite Empire, once a dominant force, also crumbled due to internal dissent and invasions. The Egyptian Empire, though able to survive for a time, was weakened by the invasion of the Sea Peoples and the strain of internal rebellions. Pharaoh Ramses III faced a prolonged struggle to defend his borders, and although Egypt managed to stave off complete collapse, it entered a period of significant decline. Other civilizations, like the city of Ugarit in modern-day Syria, disappeared entirely. Ugarit was a thriving port city, a center of commerce and culture, but its destruction marks the end of an era. As the Bronze Age ended, the world entered a period of relative darkness. Writing systems fell out of use, monumental architecture ceased to be constructed, and the once advanced civilizations reverted to a simpler, more localized way of life. The Iron Age emerged from the ashes of the Bronze Age, but it was a time of upheaval and uncertainty. Many regions, once centers of innovation and trade, experienced a loss of literacy, art, and technology. It would take centuries for some of these cultures to rebuild and regain their former grandeur. The Bronze Age collapse serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile even the most advanced civilizations can be. A combination of natural disaster, climate change, invasions, economic collapse, and social upheaval brought down societies that once seemed invincible. Today, we live in a world that is still interconnected, just as those ancient civilizations once were. But we must ask ourselves, how resilient are we to the challenges that face us? How can we learn from the mistakes of the past and avoid repeating them? The Bronze Age collapse marked the end of a glorious chapter in human history. But it also set the stage for the growth of new civilizations, new ideas, and new technologies. From the ashes of destruction came the seeds of the future. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of the most fascinating periods in history. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more historical deep dives. Until next time, keep exploring the past.